Yo, yo, yo. We back with another episode of the No Pressure Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Miles. Miles, whatever you want to call me, Booby Miles. Here with my brother, TJ, Coach Teej, my guy, my dog. Let's get right into it, man. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. First and foremost, Coach, let's start off with your day. How your day been, how your weekend been. We recording on a Sunday, so talk to us about how your weekend been so far.
Man, my day was beautiful. Chilled. Didn't really do nothing. Like I said, really just chilled, cleaned. Got this morning, cooked everybody breakfast. Had some me time at the crib. Yeah, man, no complaints, man. But enjoyed the Final Four. It was exciting. Watched the Women's National Championship today. So yeah, it was a smooth little weekend, man. How about you?
It was smooth, man. It was smooth. Today, my niece's birthday. Shout out to Elle and Aiden. Third birthday. So it was cool seeing all the kids running around, seeing all the kids growing. And, ultimately, man, they just had a really good time. So it was really good to see that. And, just been watching these games, man. Definitely got to hop into the Final Four, talk about or just dissect, how everything went yesterday. And today for that matter. So, yeah, we can really start off with the Duke game, man. That's something that we really got to talk about. Really got to take a deeper dive into. Obviously, I'm a huge Duke fan.
Yeah, hold on, Coach. Let me paint the picture. Let me paint the picture. I feel like, first and foremost, happy birthday to Elle and Aiden. Like you said earlier, big three. Keep doing great things, twins, and I'm excited to see y'all continue to grow. Now, like my brother was alluding to, he's a big Duke fan, man. So I felt like I know he probably got some stuff he want to get off his chest. So what we're gonna dive right into, y'all, is this Duke Houston game. We're gonna start off with that. For those that didn't see, Houston had a late comeback. Duke had a double-digit lead at one point with about 7 minutes to go in the second half. Had some struggles inbounding the ball late, which ultimately resulted in Houston with a tremendous comeback victory to lead them to Kelvin Sampson's first national championship appearance. So, my brother, the floor is yours, man. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know some of your thoughts. This moment is yours.
Yeah, first off, hats off to Houston. They played extremely well, especially down the stretch. They showed a will to win. I called it a cultural win for real, just in terms of how they had no quit. They had no lay down. That's what I like to say. A lot of times you can see when guys lay down. You can see when guys fold. They had no signs of that whatsoever, even when they were down 14 in the second half. I think Kelvin Sampson did a really good job of keeping his guys poised, especially down the stretch. It made a lot of really good plays, a lot of really big plays. So you got to tip your hat to them and everything that they did to win that game. But with that being said, I do feel like we blew it, man. And I don't even like to be that guy, but down the stretch, just made some uncharacteristic plays. We had a late turnover, couldn't get the ball in bounds on when we were getting denied. Had some missed free throws, just some sloppy things, man. It was crazy because we were dominating that game. I felt like at any point in time in the second half, we could have really blew it open. Definitely. Like I said, we was up 14 late not late in the second half, but we had a 14-point lead in the second half. And, Houston just kept chipping away. Jawan Roberts made a lot of really big-time plays on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. LJ Cryer, he a dog. I've always liked his game. I liked him when he was at Baylor. I liked when he made the move to Houston. That showed me that, he's not afraid of being coached. He's not afraid of, that certain style that Houston tends to play with. And he made a lot of big shots, especially in the second half. So, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Houston, but Duke put themselves in position to take care of that game, and we just left the door open. And like I said, Kelvin Sampson led team. They're going to battle. They're going to fight. They're going to claw, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm not the type to blame. I don't really like to blame guys or point the finger to anybody. I will say, I feel like Coach Shire, if he's not putting the blame on himself, I would be very surprised. Because I feel like if I'm in his shoes, yeah. I think he did. Yeah, he did. Post game interview. But yeah, if I'm in his shoes, I'm definitely placing the blame on myself, just for some of the late game execution on Duke's side. Like I said, not getting the ball inbounds. Even I really wasn't a big fan of our last play where Cooper Flagg had an ISO on the wing. They kind of cleared out the side for him. He went one-on-one with Juwan Roberts. I felt like we could have got something better than that. And Cooper, he got to a good spot. He elevated. I think that's a shot that he can definitely make, but I feel like we could have got to a better action for sure. But like I said, man, hats off to Houston. At the end of the day, it's hard to beat a team that has the ultimate will. And Houston, they got the ultimate will. They got the ultimate relentlessness about them. And I think that won in the game. So, shout out to them. And I'm gonna go ahead and take them in the national championship game. I think they'll beat Florida. I think it's going to be a really great game. Two teams that play extremely hard. But I'm gonna go ahead, cheer for Coach Sampson, and hopefully he can take this one home.
Hey, man, very well said, Coach. Great analysis. I don't really have too much to dispute. The only thing I'll touch on about that Duke Houston game is, like you said, shout out to Kelvin Sampson in Houston for getting there after getting close. I believe it was a couple of years ago. And I think I speak for all Carolina fans when I say we probably slept very good on Saturday night. I slept like a baby, and it was a blessing to wake up to a Duke loss. But them boys go bounce back. I agree with you, what you said about Coach Shire. Think there were some areas of improvement, man. But that's part of coaching, man. You live and you learn. Hindsight is always 20/20. I know he'll bounce back. Duke's going to continue to be a perennial program, so there's no doubts about that whatsoever. But Coach, man, while we're talking, before we segue to Florida and Auburn, I did want to ask you. So this is Kelvin Sampson's first time in his career, which I look 35 years. He's been coaching for 35 years, long time. And he's just not making his first appearance in the national championship game. What are your thoughts on, there are some coaches who never see the national championship. I made a post on my Facebook shortly after during the state championships of the high school playoffs that, I just hope I get to experience that one day before it's all said and done, because I know many coaches don't experience. It's tough to be one of the final two teams in any facet of any sports setting and competing for a championship. So, what goes on through your head when you hear that it took him 35 years, a great coach like Kelvin Sampson, it took him 35 years to get to the national championship game?
You hit the nail on the head, man. It's hard. It's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not just having the best team. It's having a talented team. It's being well coached. It takes being healthy. It takes a little bit of luck. It takes the ball bouncing a certain way. And it's not something that every coach is going to experience. I think it's a lot of great coaches out here, but a lot of coaches are not going to get a chance to experience a national championship game at any level. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think too deep when it comes to, it's Kelvin. He doesn't have a championship. This is his first appearance. So that's, that judges him that judges how good of a coach he is. I don't think about that at all. In fact, him implementing a style of play, implementing a culture, I take more stock into stuff like that. Anybody thinks about Houston, they thinking about a team that's going to play as hard as they possibly can, a team that's going to guard the ball at a very high level, a team that's going to double in the post. You're not going to get any easy post touches. If you do get the ball down low, you're going to get trapped. A team that blitzes ball screens. stuff like that. Just having stuff like that that's said about your team, and on a night in and night out basis, you know that's what you're going to get from that team. That shows me that he's a great coach. Being able to give his players tough love, having his players not entering the portal left and right, that shows me that he's a great coach. Guys wanting to play for him, that shows me that he's a great coach. It doesn't have anything to do with him, this is his first time being in the national championship game. I don't really take too much stock into that. Like I said, it's tough. It's tough. It's a lot of factors that go into making it all the way. It's a lot of factors that go into winning the national championship. But at the end of the day, I know Kelvin Sampson's a great coach. And I really want him to win this. And if he does win, I think he should ride into the sunset. Go ahead and hand the keys over to his son, Kellen Sampson. He's a really good assistant. He's probably ready to go ahead and take the reins of the program. So if he can win this tomorrow, I'll say go ahead and ride to the sunset. Retire, call it a career, storybook ending, pass it over to your son, and he's gonna keep it going.
Hey, what a better way to go out, you know what I'm saying? And then being able to pass it on to your son, that'd be amazing if he was granted that opportunity, Kellen. But you hit the nail on the head yourself, Coach, when you said that that was a cultural win. I think I'm a paraphrase, but he somewhere along the line in the quote they said after the game was just like, pretty much, they don't quit. And then LJ Carr said they had a game similar to that early in the season when they played Kansas on the road, was down late, very late within the game, and was able to hit 2 big threes to send the game to overtime that they ended up winning in double overtime. So, they had already been in that situation. They had already been prepared for that. But I think that's a testament to Kelvin Sampson and the culture that he brings to that Houston program, man. So, I'm going for Houston as well. I think it's going to be a great game, though. I hope Houston wins the game, but overall, I just wanted it to be a great game. I think both programs are deserving of a national championship. But like you said, I think Kelvin Sampson, he's put in his time. He's put in his 10,000 hours. I know it ain't about who deserves what, but he definitely deserves it. So it'd be great to see Houston get that dub. And like I alluded to, like I just said, they'll be playing Florida. Florida had a victory over Auburn, in which Walter Clayton Jr. dropped 34 points. Bro, what a tear he's been on. Walter Clayton Jr. in his senior campaign, back-to-back 30-point games, first player to do that since Larry Bird. I think not even first player. I think the only other player to do that since Larry Bird, man. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, caught that game. It was great. It was a jug. They were balling, man. Auburn came out hot in the first half, led going into the half, and then Florida, it was just clawing. I really don't know what it was. I feel like Florida played good defensively. I think Auburn had some stagnancy. I don't even know if that's a word, but on offense, in which I felt like they were taking a while to get into their sets. Janai Broome, I don't know if he wasn't 100. I know he wasn't 100% healthy, but I don't know how bad his injuries were affecting him. I feel like he didn't really make a huge imprint in that second half. And then Walter Clayton Jr. just showed that he was the best player on the court. First team All-American, knocking down tough shots, not forcing. But I can't even neglect his supporting cast, man. Florida clawed, they clawed, they fought, did what they had to do, and won, and similar to what they did early in the season when they went into Auburn and beat them. So kudos to them Florida boys as well, man. But Coach, what you think about Walter Clayton Jr.'s performance of the tournament so far?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before I got into it. I wanted to ask you. I seen. I think it might have been Jay Will. I think it might have been Jay Will that said, he playing his way into the number 2 pick conversation.
Ooh,
that's high praise. I ain't never seen him on any mock drafts as a first rounder. Mm-mm. But now, people saying that, he might be number 2 off the board. What's your thoughts about that?
I kind of compare number 2 is that's kind of wild to me. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen or it shouldn't happen. I think he's definitely he's played his way to lottery. I kind of think of it not as impressive in my opinion, but Kimber's run, when we was growing up, to me is one of the best individual NCAA tournament runs of all time. And I think that's what propelled Kimba into being the lottery pick, getting drafted by the Hornets. And I think him and Walter Clayton Jr., their games are pretty comparable in the sense, like they both play with the ball in their hands, they get their teammates involved, and they can score at a high clip. And they have an unwavering toughness about them. So I would disagree with Jay Will about him playing himself to a number 2 pick, but definitely lottery. What are your thoughts on that? I didn't see that, man. That was why I reacted the way I did. What you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's kind of a stretch. He's a senior, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the draft is based off potential. They're going to go with young guys. I think Jay Will might have been reaching when he said that. But I see where he's going. Typically, a lot of times when these individual players have these NCAA runs, similar to a Kemba Walker. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times that's when, guys see their stock rise. So I think it's going to be the same thing, not necessarily number 2 pick. But I mean, what he's doing is real special. And I mean, if he can go crazy tomorrow, he got it. I mean, he got it just in terms of being like a top 10 pick. But what he's been doing is special. And, I definitely salute him for sure.
Yeah, now if he go crazy tomorrow, he may propel himself to a top 10, maybe even a top 5 pick. But like I said, I think he's a safe lottery pick. He's proven he can shoot the ball. With the way the NBA is going right now, if you can shoot, you got a chance to make it in the league. But man, so like I said earlier, man, watch the national championship game of South Carolina versus UConn, number 1 versus number 2. Geno versus Don Staley, man. I was kind of torn about this game, man, because about who I was going for. I wanted South Carolina to win. I'm just a huge fan of Don Staley. Not even just from a coaching standpoint, because I think she's very similar to Kelvin Sampson and the culture that she instills into her programs, her players. I feel like all her players love her. They'll do anything for her, and like she's authentically herself. She got a swag about her, like just like a demeanor about her. Like if I met Don Staley, man, it would just be a dream of mine, just based on her accolades. So I found myself rooting for South Carolina, man, but I wasn't mad at UConn winning, more so for Paige Bueckers, man. I'm not sure if the listeners are familiar with her story, but she lost to South Carolina a couple of years ago in the championship game. That was South Carolina's perfect season. And then last year she actually tore ACL, so she did not play. And this is her senior year, so this is her last year to get a national championship. And for those that don't know about UConn women's basketball, since me and Miles have been born, man, they've been epitomized with national championships. Not just winning. They've been epitomized with national championships. So, Paige is arguably one of the greatest UConn players of all time. That's, from Maya Moore to Diana Taurasi, Breanna Stewart. But she put the pressure on herself. Like, how can I be with those greats if I don't win a national championship? So it was almost destiny for UConn to get that win, in which they ultimately did in a dominating fashion, almost winning by 30 points. Almost a wire-to-wire victory as well. So shout out to them. But Coach, I wanted to ask you first, 2-part question. I kind of spoke about, who I was going for and why I was going for them and whatnot, and what Don Staley epitomizes as a coach for South Carolina. But if you could touch base on Don Staley as well as Geno Auriemma winning his 12th, which is an NCAA D1 record across men's and women's, his 12th national championship, which is insane. 12 national championships. So 12 national championships for Geno, if you could touch on that. And then just touch on Don Staley and her dominance as of late in college basketball.
Yeah, man. I mean, starting off with Don, like you said, like definitely love her swagger, loves what she brings to the game. I love how she promotes women's basketball at the college and the WNBA level. Like I really love that. And she's been doing that for a while now. She advocates for all the females when it comes to basketball, especially if they're doing their thing, especially if they deserve it. She brings a lot of attention to the sport on both levels, at WNBA and college. So I definitely like that about her. Like she came to the game in the Louis Vuitton sweatsuit, like Louis Vuitton Don. Like, that's so tough, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that about her. And like you said, I mean, she's authentically herself. You know, being able to, you know, recruit talented players, build relationships with them, getting them to play together. That's a skill. You know, that's not something that everybody can do. So I think she does a great job. And I mean, she's just true to herself at the end of the day. And, you know, people gravitate toward genuine people. And, you know, she's definitely one of a kind when it comes to being genuine in the profession, for sure. So, you know, shout out to Don. As far as Geno, man, I mean, 12 national championships. Like, that's insane. That's crazy.
Bro.
You know, that's something that might not ever be touched, just in terms of somebody breaking that record. And I mean, he's been consistent, you know, throughout his tenure there. You know, they've always been towards the top every year. Even the years they didn't win it, like, I mean, they still are considered one of the best teams in the nation on the women's side. So, you know, shout out to Geno, man, everything that he's done and his dominance. At the end of the day, he does the same thing in terms of getting talented players and getting them to play together. And I mean, I really like their style of play. You know, I think they have a lot of Princeton concepts about their offense as far as backdoors, dribble handoffs, stuff like that. So they play a beautiful brand of basketball. Sarah Strong, she's really, really good. I know Paige gets a lot of the attention, but Sarah Strong, she's going to be one of the ones too. And she actually went to high school in North Carolina, so she's a North Carolina product. So shout out to her. Shout out to UConn women's basketball program. You know, they doing their thing. They'll be one of the best teams in the nation next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, until Geno decides to pack it up. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing to see, and I feel like college basketball is in a really good place for sure.
Definitely, bro. We definitely got some greats to, you know, look up to and aspire to be like, man. So, one thing as we segue to our next topic, Geno said that, which got me to thinking, he had said in the on the podium that, excuse me, it had been a while since he had, you know, got that emotional when a player checks out of the game in their final game, in reference to Paige. And that led me to think about, you know, a special moment that I had this past season. I hadn't really found myself getting emotional senior night, and probably in a while, but I was very emotional this past senior night, man. I believe I had 8 seniors, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't but I believe I had 8 seniors, which is my biggest senior class since my first group, in which I had 7. But one player in particular, Cam Rudd, who's about to graduate, man. So shout out to Cam and all my seniors. You know, going to be going 8 for 8. So I'm proud of that. But he, you know, he faced a lot of adversity, man. Last year, his season was cut very short due to a knee injury. So I was looking forward to his senior year, in which, you know, he was slowly getting back to the process of things, and eventually inserted him into my starting lineup. And we had started to find a little bit of a rhythm. And in one of our road games against North Edgecombe, he actually hurt his knee again, which ended his senior year. So fast forward to senior night, you know, I made sure that he was last, you know, to get introduced, man. But as soon as he was walking into the gym, you know, I just started crying, man. I just started having a moment, because I felt so bad for him, because he worked so hard, and, you know, things were trending in the right direction. I just wanted him to have the best senior year, because he was a great kid to coach from his freshman year. He was part of a group that only had 1 win, to being in the position that we were, to having a winning record, to, you know, getting third in that tough conference. And I just wanted him to have that moment. So when he came and we hugged and embraced each other, man, you know, I just told him in his ear that I'm so sorry. I loved him. And, you know, we were going to continue to just ride this thing out. And, you know, he thanked me for everything. And, you know, it's my dog to this day, man. So that was it just had me reflecting, man. Like, that's some of the beauties in coaching. The wins and losses are one thing, but the relationships you build with these guys, and girls for that matter, goes a long way. And one of the things that I think I personally enjoy about high school, and hopefully if I do get to the collegiate level, is that you only have 4 years more often than not. You know, if a guy girl comes in from a freshman year up through their senior year. So seeing their growth, seeing Cam's growth from his ninth grade year to his senior year just means so much to me because, you know, there were highs, there were lows, the times in the weight room, the tough practices, the back and forths. I mean, this is with all the guys, but just seeing that growth as a coach, man, it just goes a long way for me. So when I had that final embrace with him, you know, and he was able to, he started the game. We lost the tip, we fouled. He got a standing ovation, man. That just meant everything to me. And you know, it just goes back to another game that meant a lot to me. We had a game at Kip. This is the game after his injury. You know, I wore his jersey. I coached in his jersey, the black number 11 jersey, man. And, you know, no one knew I was going to do that. I just, you know, felt inclined to do that because, I mean, that's how much he meant to me and how much, you know, it meant to this program that, you know, we're losing our guy, but he's still with us. And nothing, you know, the energy's going to be here. So I decided to coach in his jersey, man. But, so, Coach, I say all that to say, man, like, you know, like I said, man, coaching is more than just wins and losses. So I would love to hear – I think that people would love to hear about a special moment or some special moments in your coaching career because I got a few more, but I'm tired of hearing myself talk, so go ahead.
Nah, like, I feel like people don't really understand those special moments. And, I mean, it's cool that we got this platform to speak about them because at the end of the day, it's not always about the wins and the losses, man. It's so much more than that. You know, these relationships that we build, it's bigger. It's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than wins and losses. It's bigger than championships. You know, I've never had the fortune to win a championship in my 6 years. But I mean, some of the moments that I've had with our guys, it just lasts a lifetime. Like, it's just moments I'll never forget. I tell my wife all the time, like, what was it, year 4? I decided to get my master's. I decided to get my master's degree at Brevard, my 4th year there. So I had the opportunity to walk the stage with my first recruiting class that I brought to Brevard. You know, those guys came in as freshmen. They did 4 years. And like I said, just having the opportunity to walk this stage with them, like the same day they were graduating, like that just, it damn near brought a tear to my eyes because, you know, just recruiting those guys, building relationships, trying to get them to come to Brevard and, you know, having the opportunity to walk across the stage, them getting their undergrad degree and, you know, myself getting my master's degree, that meant a lot to me. And, you know, like I said, that had nothing to do with basketball. That had nothing to do with wins or losses. It's just a proud moment to see them walk across the stage, getting their degree. And, you know, a guy like me, you know, not super smart, not super book smart or anything like that. You know, in fact, in high school, you know, I was a kid that was ineligible second semester, freshman year. You know, I can't play no more because my grades messed up. You know, now, you know, I'm getting a master's degree and I'm walking the stage with the guys I recruited to come to Brevard. You know, that meant a lot to me. So, I mean, it's just a lot of moments, man, that has nothing to do with, you know, championships or anything like that. You know, I'm super proud to say that year 3, you know, we made our conference tournament at Brevard. We made our conference tournament for the first time in the USA South era. I mean, that was a huge moment for us. You know, we beat Piedmont. We went on the road to Georgia, beat Piedmont, a team that previously beat us by like 40. We went on the road, beat them, clinched a spot in the conference tournament for the first time in the, like I said, in the USA South era. And just being a part of that locker room and just seeing the guys go crazy and, you know, guys crying because they did something that they never done before. We did something that has never been done before in the program's history. You know, that makes me emotional. You know, year 4, we made the conference tournament again. We went on the road in the first round and beat Pfeiffer. That locker room was crazy. It's just super epic to get that win. And then we went on the road again and we lost to a North Carolina Wesleyan team that was extremely talented. And I mean, at the end of that game, we're in the locker room, guys are crying, guys are emotional. Coach Burgess gives the seniors the opportunity to speak. And I'll never forget Quincy Carter. Shout out my dog, Quincy, QC. He pretty much said, I love y'all. He thanked the coaches for giving him the opportunity to play. And then he said, at the end, coming to Brevard was one of the best decisions I ever made. And I immediately started crying because, that just means a lot to me because, Brevard is not a sexy place to go to college. It's not like a destination place. You don't really hear nobody say, "Oh, I want to go to Brevard out of high school," or "Oh, I can't wait to play basketball at Brevard." A lot of people have never even heard of the school. So for him to say that, saying that, "Oh, joining this program, being part of this team, coming to this school, was one of the best decisions he ever made in his life." That just made me super emotional. And then, it's just so many different stories that, we both have throughout this coaching journey that we can share. But at the end of the day, it's a lot bigger than wins and losses. It's a lot bigger than championships. And, I couldn't be any luckier to be in the profession that we're in, just having the impact that we have on these guys and, ultimately just being a part of these guys' lives forever. It's really big for us. And, it's something we don't take for granted.
Man, definitely, bro. Definitely grateful to be in the positions that we both in, man. And I also want to highlight, for those that don't know, I also coach cross country as well. And, very proud and blessed and grateful to be able to say that, this past season we won our conference championship for the third straight year. So we had a three-peat. And usually, across sports, when you do a three-peat, you look at that as a dynasty, man. But never once did I ever think that I would be a cross-country coach. Matter of fact, how that came about is just, one, we needed a coach, and it was just an opportunity for me to keep my guys who do not play football, just keep them in shape, give them something to do. And it eventually turned into something that I thoroughly enjoy doing, and my runners enjoy doing. I was proud to say, so in order to technically, I guess, compete for a conference championship, you got to have at least 5 runners, and your 5 runners have to have the 5 fastest times, in a sense. And like you said earlier, about Brevard not being sexy, cross country is not a sexy sport. So this past season, I was actually able to field the full female team, man. And so that just let me know how big the program is growing. It was actually fun during our first meet this past year. The coach at Northwest, Coach Mills, he because I used to drive our little small bus like that because I didn't have that many runners, so I used to take our small bus, but I couldn't do that no more because I had too many runners, so I had to take a full activity bus. And he was like, "Coach, I knew it was only a matter of time before y'all had to get rid of the we called him putt. We called the bus putt. But he said, I knew it was only a matter of time you had to get rid of putt, man." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you've always said that, Coach Mills," but because I had a full girls team, I had a full guys team. Girls were able to officially claim their first conference championship, but the boys were able to three-peat. But I always say we're one group, so that's why I say we three-peated. I'm very fortunate to have the female runner of the year in Kinley Sheets for back-to-back years as a freshman, as a sophomore. She was also one of 2 to qualify for states this past year. So having a male and a female runner to qualify for states, the other one was Jeremiah Kearney. Shout out to him. He's a rising junior for the cross-country program. But yeah, just being able to three-peat, man, and bringing a championship to Warren County, even though it wasn't in the sport that I'm most passionate about in basketball, I know that time's gonna come soon. But being able to bring 3 straight conference championships, regular season and conference championship to Warren County just means a lot to me because these kids deserve it. These kids are champions, and they work hard, and we worked hard for that. And now we're working hard. Once we got to the top, we're working hard to stay at the top. And I'm just proud of them because I take those practices seriously. And like I said, we're talking about running. Most of that is mental. And running 3 miles is not easy. And sometimes, I get out there and run with them just to help motivate them any way that I can. But I'm always in the ear, always, providing some advice, words of encouragement. But at the end of the day, I preach to them like, it's you versus you. So when I'm seeing runners cross the finish, and, we're at third meet, when I'm seeing runners cross the finish line and they're crying because they're not happy with their time, that means a lot to me because, okay, now we're caring. Now what can we control so we can, be better next week, improve our time next week, as opposed to, oh, I just finished, I think about another runner of mine, Naya. It took her to her third meet to finish the race, but she was so happy. She expressed to me that she had thought about quitting, but she didn't. And I was so proud of her when she finished, and she finished every race upon that, and eventually made all conference as a runner. So just stories like that, man, just go a long way. Because like I said, we talking about cross country, and again, I never thought I would ever coach cross country, but now I find myself I'm enjoying running with them when I can. I enjoy running on my own, and I enjoy coaching cross country. So that's why my signature in my email, I got Warren County head varsity basketball coach and head cross country coach, because that's something I'm proud of. So yeah.
Let me ask you this: with cross country, what are some of the challenges of coaching cross country? And what would you say is the biggest? And what would you say is the biggest difference between coaching basketball versus coaching cross country?
So to answer your first question, which you said, like, what's some of the challenges? Like, some of the challenges is just getting someone interested in running. Because I can't really sell you on, hey, come run 3 miles. It's just something hard. Like, I put myself in these kids' shoes. Like, I'm not trying. And it's it's in August and September, so it's still pretty warm around that time, man. And the only way to train for 3 miles is to run 3 miles. So like in our practices, we're running 3 miles, but so really just getting buy-in. Like I said, for my guys, like it's almost like of course they have a choice, but they kind of get it. Like it's like all right, we got it. Kind of. I remember I went to Independence, and Coach Knox, my freshman and sophomore year, Coach Knox, it was a requirement for football players to run track. Like, it was required. But when you win 6, 7 straight state championships, who's going to question you? So it's almost like a requirement in a sense for myself. Like, if they're not playing football, they need to be coming across. If they have, especially my returners, like it's always a requirement for the returners, and it's highly encouraged for people that are interested in trying out for basketball for the first, second, or third time. If they got cut, but if they played for me the previous year and they don't play football, I'm gonna see you at cross country. Now for my females, like that's the biggest challenge for me, because again, like again, 3 miles is intimidating. A lot of the females don't run. It's hard enough for the guys I get to run 3 miles, but guys are a little bit more open when it comes to running, in a sense, whereas girls, if it's not track, where it's something like specific, like, I got my 100, 200, 300, 400, or my 4x1 relay, then it's one thing. So yeah, man, just really getting them to understand, like, yo, this is a mindset. Like, some days are going to be better than others. Some days your times are going to be great. Some days it's not going to be where they need to be at. But just knowing that pushing yourself to this limit, because again, everything we're doing with sports is just an analogy to life. And it's more one-on-one. So to the second part of your question, like, what's the biggest difference between coaching basketball and coaching cross country? Is like, yes, it's still team-based, because like I say, you need 5 runners in order to qualify. So you're still cheering on your team, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of like you versus you. So I think that kind of, I use it with my guys. I use it as like an analogy, in a sense, to like, you could be in a pressure situation in which you're at the free throw line. We're down 2. You just got fouled on the 3, and there's no time left on the clock, and you're at the free throw line by yourself. It's you versus you. So at that point, it's a mental. So you relax your mind, you control your breathing, just like you do when you're running. I always tell, one thing I emphasize is controlling their breathing, slowing their heart rate down. Inhaling, exhaling. Just not huffing and puffing and wasting unnecessary air while you're running, because 3 miles is a long time. And also understanding that, like, you gotta just keep going. Like, it's all about pacing. In basketball, we slow down the pace sometimes. Sometimes we pick the pace up, depending on our opponent, depending on the flow of the game. But with running, you kind of want to either maintain that same pace or increase that same pace to better your time. You never really want to slow down. So I used to always ask my runners, what mile does it like start to set in individually now? What mile does it start to set in where it's like, all right, I got to push myself? And they will always say around like that mile and a half mark. Like you get to a mile and a half, you're feeling good, but then quads might get a little tight, hamstrings might get a little tight. In that moment, you got to make a decision. Like either I'm going to continue to push myself because my mind's trying to trick me right now. Your body is stronger than you think. Like your body can withstand a lot. So yeah, you may be sore, but if you keep pushing, it's like your body will become numb to it. And that's something I practice myself when I'm running. But I mean, the biggest difference is just like I have to understand that it's more individualized in cross country, whereas basketball is about getting a team to come together, getting people to sacrifice for the betterment of the team. Understanding that, yeah, you might not be playing, but I could still be a great teammate. Whereas, like I said, cross country it's definitely just a bit more individualized. And I'm a fan of those sports, man, where it's like you versus you and you all you got. Like I love watching UFC. You're a big fan of boxing. And I just think about like I would love to talk to a coach in those sports, someone who's coaching like or even tennis, like someone who's coached Serena Williams, a coach like a Mike Tyson, like, in those moments when you're a fighter or you're a golfer or you're a tennis player, like when they're beating themselves up, how do you handle that as a coach? Like, do you kind of let them go through those moments? Do you give them words of encouragement? Do you keep it real with them? Like, I feel like a combat sport or a sport in which it's just, an individual sport, I think it's such a sensitive athlete to deal with because the slightest thing can throw them off their rhythm. Or I think about a gymnast, like Simone Biles. Like I fathom with the thought of like coaching an individual sport for those reasons, man, because it's something about like, I'm got this girl I'm training, they're all they got right now. And I know, like in tennis, like you can't receive coaching. Like they just got to play, and the coaches got to sit up there and be quiet. Like, I guess kind of like a parent, man. Like we going to parent our kids for 18 years, and when they leave our nest, we're just praying that we did everything. We coach them to be the best, version of themselves, the best person they could possibly be in this world, man. But I hope I answered your question, Coach.
Yeah. I like that analogy at the end. When you were speaking about parenting, because I think that kind of equates for real. At the end of the day, you got 18 years to build cash, to build chosen into the men you want them to be. And I mean, once they hit 18, it's like, all right, it's time to rock and roll. I think about the same thing with our boys. What am I doing? What am I doing to build them? What am I doing to grow them? What am I doing to prepare them? What am I doing to get them ready for this world? I mean, at the end of the day, you got to do everything that you can to make sure that they're in a good space to be productive citizens in this world. And I mean, it's something that we got to be intentional about. And at the end of the day, once they hit 18, it's like, all right, it's time to rock and roll. So I definitely can appreciate that analogy for sure.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much how I go, bro. And something else we wanted to touch on this episode is the MVP race in the NBA is actually a huge debate going on right now. It's pretty much between two guys, Shai Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the Oklahoma City Thunder, or Nikola Jokic for the Denver Nuggets. Now Jokic has already won 3 MVPs. Shai was second last year to Jokic, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a tight race, man. So, like, before we get into each athlete's accolades and who we think should get MVP, Coach, I'll let you lead with. But and what does MVP mean to you? Because everyone has their own different criteria. So, whatever your criteria may be, what does MVP mean to you as it relates to the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changed over the years. I used to be a big advocate of the most valuable player because, I mean, that's what MVP means. So not necessarily the best player on the best team, but the most valuable player for this team's success is this guy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I used to think about it. And I think it's kind of changed over the years. I think it's kind of changed over the years to the best player on the best team because, I mean, at the end of the day, you play to win the game. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not mad at anybody for picking one side or the other. But I think it's starting to change, especially from an NBA standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
The best player on the best team. I mean, it's just something you can't really. I don't know. It's hard to argue with. So I mean, with that being said, I would probably give it to SGA this year. I mean, the Thunder have been rolling all year. They have been consistently the best team in the NBA. And he is, without a doubt, the best player on the best team in the NBA. But I'm not mad at anybody that says it should be Joker. I'm not mad at anybody for saying it shouldn't always be the best player on the best team. I think it's a debate that we can definitely go back and forth about, and I'm not mad at either or. I mean, just speaking from experience, this past year, KT, Kendall Taylor, shout out KT. He was
Killer.
without a doubt the best player in our league, like without a doubt, like no questions asked. But I mean, we didn't win enough games. It's point blank. I mean, point blank period. We didn't win enough games for him to receive the award, even though he was without a doubt the best player in our league. Put up the best numbers, super efficient, led the league in scoring. I mean, triple doubles, 40-point games, like you name it, across the board. He had all the numbers to say that he was the best player in the league, but I mean, he ended up not winning it because we didn't win enough games in our league. And they ended up giving it to the team that won the league and their best player. So, obviously I wanted KT to win it because I'm a huge fan of KT and I got the chance to coach him. And he ended up being the All-American. But, you got to win. You got to win games. Point blank period. It doesn't matter what your numbers looking like if your team's struggling to make the playoffs. Obviously, something that you're doing is not equating to winning. So, I go back and forth about it. But I'm definitely wanting to. I would probably go ahead and specify the best player on the best team. I mean, it's just something it's hard to argue with. So, with that being said, like I said, I would say SGA is the MVP for this year. But I mean, what's your thoughts about it? And what I'm saying making sense, or is it stupid, or what? Because I'm not mad at either or.
No, what you're saying making sense. I definitely think it's turned to, for the most part now. It's going to have its situations in which it's not the case, but hold the best player on the best team thing. But, it's crazy, bro. I think Shai deserved it last year. And I think Joker deserves it this year. And, of course, it's swap, man, because what Joker is doing statistically is just unheard of, bro. Like, to be averaging just under 30 points a game, 12.8 rebounds, 10 points. He's averaging a triple-double at this point. I think he has another triple-double right now as we're speaking in the current game that they're playing against the Pacers. He's top 5 in 4 major categories: points, rebounds, assists, and steals. That'll be the first time that has ever been done in NBA history. So statistically, he is having arguably the greatest NBA season ever for an individual. So how does that person not win MVP? Also, too, to me, what an MVP is, like, is most valuable. So, like, I think if I remove this player off of this team, one, is this team as successful? How does it affect this team? Anytime Joker's always available to, he's always available to. The best ability is availability, and he's always available. Anytime he's out, it's just like if it's rest for the most part, or coach keeping him out. But if he can go, he's going. So that's something else too I admire about him and Shai. But then, like you said, the Thunder, I'm a Thunder fan. We've been winning all year. He's averaging 32 points a game. 71 straight with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, and he's also top 5 in steals. So leading the NBA in scoring, top 5 in steals. He's a guard. I think as far as guards, he's number 1 in field goal percentage, number 1 record in the NBA, a lot of big wins. great performances, and consistency. Like he's consistently shown, just like your Joker, that they are in a class of their own. And again, if you take Shai off, now I do think this though. Would the Thunder be the number one seed? No. But if you remove Shai off this team, I do think the Thunder would be more successful than the Nuggets if you remove Joker off of his team.
I agree.
That just goes in line with my analogy with what I said earlier, where it's just like, this is my criteria. Like that's why I think it's going to be tough for like a Jason Tatum to ever win the MVP, because when he's out, like the Celtics are still good as hell, bro. Like they're very good. I think about the year when Russell Westbrook won, again, being an OKC fan, when he averaged a triple-double. Again, that he took a team that won, that we were a 6th seed that year. And I know it's very hard for a guy who's in a team in the 6th seed that had an MVP, but what he did for us that year, a winning record, Alex averaging a triple-double, big wins, breaking the triple-double record for a season, and carrying us to that 6th spot and leading us to a 7-game a Game 7 loss to the Houston Rockets, in which we could have won. But saying all that to say, that's to me, that's value. That's one of my issues with like the NFL. Like I think the MVP is just a quarterback award. Like they shouldn't even have MVP. They should just have quarterback of the year, because that's all the MVP is in the NFL. It's just who's the best quarterback.
Right.
Where it's like, I think about, because if I'm not who won MVP last year in the NFL? It might have been Pat Mahomes again. No, it was Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen, because it was between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
Now, yeah, Josh Allen did his thing. I'm a Ravens fan. Do I feel like Lamar Jackson should have won over Josh Allen? Yes. That wasn't the case. Because when head to head, I can go on and on. I'm gonna let Chuck handle that when we have him. But Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, Saquon Barkley was the MVP in the NFL this past season, for what he did, with the Eagles. Yeah, I know the Eagles have the best offensive line, but Saquon just a one of none type season. I think he has inspired many young running backs in the NFL. I mean, many young running backs growing up to wear the number 26, based on what he was doing and doing things that we've never seen before, like the spinning hurdle, like just his run in the playoffs where he broke it off and he was hitting it. Like, just Saquon just had a hell of a year, man. So saying all that to say, he was a big part of that Eagles success, and I mean, he wasn't a quarterback. So, but to bring it back to the NBA, like I said, man, I just feel like Joker deserves it this year. That he would get my vote, because I feel like, again, you remove him, they're not as successful, and then his availability and what he's doing, he's touching all parallels of the game, just like SGA is too. But like Joker, it's just when you're top 5 statistically in 4 major categories, and when I think of something that's never been done or hasn't been done in a long time, I think that has to factor in. I think that's in large part why Westbrook won when he averaged a triple-double. It hadn't been done since Oscar Robertson, so we're seeing history be made on top of them winning, on top of him carrying the team to the playoffs. Cool, we're gonna give it to him. But I also think Joker's dealing with a little bit of the LeBron itis, in the sense of, LeBron could have 7, 8 MVPs for real. Like he really could. But I think they just got so tired of giving it to him that, we're going to find somebody else to give it to. Whereas Joker, like I said, if he was to win MVP this year, that'd be his 4th one, and Joker's not even 30. He's not even nowhere near a prime yet, but he's just getting better. And this is a guy who allegedly doesn't care about basketball as much as the average man. He's put more stock in this. He always says that basketball is just something I'm good at. He's a very humble dude, man, but damn, man, he good as hell. Like, simple as that, he's just good as hell. So if he was to get MVP, if someone voted for him, I'm not arguing with him. If someone voted for Shai, I'm not arguing with him. But I just was curious, Coach, like I said, about your thoughts, as well as our viewers, man. Please share your thoughts about, your MVP winner this year, and what's your MVP criteria, and if you were, should someone else be nominated along with those two?
Yeah. As far as like voter fatigue, that's real. Like, that's something that is legit. Like, that has taken away MVPs from a lot of great players. So that's definitely a thing. But I did want to just clarify. So you're on the side of the fence of the most valuable player, exactly what the acronym means. Like MVP, most valuable player, in opposed to best player on the best team.
Correct. Yes. Most
Okay.
often than not, I'm going to side for what player is like if this player was removed, how does this affect this team?
Okay. All right. So in that case, you would have voted for KT for Player of the Year.
Yes, hell yes, without hesitation. I mean, like you said, everybody, any coach seen it like again, because it wasn't like y'all were like over or like bottom of the barrel in the conference. Like you remove KT from y'all's team, things are totally different.
It's
Things are
different. It's a different
totally
story.
different.
Yeah.
Like this passion for Warren County basketball, I legitimately like it was. I don't. My team was so balanced this year that I wasn't accustomed to that. This is the deepest team I had from at one point in the season. I had 4 guys averaging 10 points per game. Coach's dream. Like I'm taking it like that 10 times out of 10. So I didn't really have a argument for a conference player of the year. But if I go back, to the first year with Andrew, and again, this is from top to bottom, offensively and defensively, he was the anchor for that team. Going against, like I said, Bobby Pettifords, the Terrence Harkins, the Elijah Jamesons. Like I advocated for him. Like you guys all played against him, and y'all knew what to expect with Warren County, but that didn't change anything as related to his performance. To being able to still average 18 points a game, shoot as well as he did, and also be a perennial defender. That just goes along. Like that's what showed that value. He was the most valuable with that on that team, and the thing I respect the most about his peers is they agree with that. So yeah, man, like value as opposed to best player, best team.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So opposing sides, I guess you can say. Here on No Pressure, we don't always agree on everything, but that's why I love him. That's why I love my dog Teej.
Yeah, man. But yeah, Coach, I think that was a good episode, man. I think we covered a lot of topics. It was kind of basketball. It was a basketball weekend, so I think it was only right that we did that. Sprinkled a little bit of the NBA. As always, we ask that y'all continue to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and do the same on Spotify. Follow us on our Instagram at @NoPressure_pod. Shout out to y'all, man. We actually made it to 100 followers, so shout out to y'all for that. Shout out to anyone that shared, that took time to watch, comment, share some laughs with us, man. So we looking forward to keep this thing rolling. And we're gonna sign out for episode 6, and we look forward to getting back to y'all for episode 7. Coach, you got anything you want to close out with?
Man, love y'all, man. Thanks for the support. Appreciate y'all. We're gonna continue to have content coming out, man. So appreciate y'all and shout out to y'all.
Love. Holla at y'all.